Guys, getting an urban planner and advice from an urban planner is hard. We've got it today, and there are going to be some overnight millionaires potentially in the property market. Could be happening at your property or next door. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about urban planning.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Good morning. We've got
Morning,
Ellie
Billy.
on planning. Thank you for joining us.
How are you, Ellie?
Guys? Really
Now,
good, thanks.
today's exciting because there are some changes that could be coming in the next couple of weeks. Now, you may be trolling council websites trying to find information. It's very hard. You may be reading top line media, which is sort of nationwide. It's very hard. What relates to you and what can be done around you, we're going to talk about this morning with Ellie. Ellie, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. We know you're a busy man.
Pleasure. Thanks for joining, for inviting me, guys.
I've got a question.
Fire away, Bill.
Once one council sets precedents, are we expected to see, the others follow suit? And maybe just give us a bit of an insight as to what these sort of changes look like. Because, as Mark said, it's so frustrating for people to read through these big documents and basically only come out with a one sentence that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great question, Billy. So essentially, this is a state government-driven policy. So these planning reforms that we've been hearing about for probably the last 6 or 12 months, that's being driven by the state government rather than councils. So as you guys will know, there's a lot of red tape associated with councils and DAs and property developments. And there's essentially kind of two tiers of legislation or planning policy. One is state policy and one is local councils. Now, when you have a state policy like what's being introduced at the moment, as well as what is proposed to be introduced, that essentially overrides council's controls or switches some of them off, which allows the state policies to basically apply.
So this is the big deal.
It is a big deal, and there's probably one council that you've been hearing about, Ku-ring-gai Council, my local council, which is taking the state government to court in about a week or two to try, overthrow these policies. So that's just one council that we're all familiar with that's not happy with the proposed changes.
Right.
Now, Ellie, last time I saw something similar to this in my world was dual occupancies, where people were having one block of land, putting a second house at the back, and that was being done very quick. It was scalable. It was a window that opened and people did it, and the window closed. Do you think the same thing's going to happen here, where that window's going to open, and then in years gone by, it'll close up again?
Well, I think that's pretty much standard with these types of major planning reforms, that there's a lot of thought behind them, but in practicality, the government actually doesn't know how much take up there's going to be, number one. Number two, how receptive property owners are going to be to it in terms of whether it's going to stack up for them or not. And number three, whether councils are going to be on board also with these proposed changes. And yeah, as I was saying before, it's switching on some councils dual occupancies. So for example, I believe Ryde Council as well as Ku-ring-gai Council at the moment prohibit dual occupancies. So what this control will do is switch it back on. So if your site is zoned R2, you could technically have a dual occupancy. Obviously subject to certain design parameters, but essentially it'll switch it on. Whether I've already been talking to someone with good knowledge of these things. There's currently a TOD policy called the Transport Orientated Development Policy, which is live at the moment. We can talk about that later if you want. But I believe that already there's proposed changes to that to amend those planning controls.
Do you think there'll be a rush when these changes come in, or do you think it'll be like a slow take up, and then there'll be sort of like a count? I would imagine council's going to get nailed with applications.
Listen, I think that there is that perception that, hey, now I can either build a dual occupancy on my property, or hey, where my property sits, I could build possibly a 6-story apartment building. There'll be certainly a lot of interest, but my understanding of the environment, as well as talking to other people and developers, I don't know if it's going to stack up for them. There is even a UDIA, an Urban Development Institute of Australia, research paper going around at the moment that's actually analysing certain train station and surrounding areas, and it's telling you which areas are going to be economically viable and which aren't. So there's even that level of research that the community or the industry is doing, which I haven't seen the government even put forward.
Yeah, right.
Another question. I like the way you phrased it. The light being turned on, giving people the green light. If you're a homeowner and you meet the certain lot size, and you meet the requirement to be within distance of shopping centres and transport and hospitals, whatever the requirement is, and you're eligible now for a dual occupancy, what do you need to do in terms of DA? Do you have to build it whilst it's under the green light, or can you sit on the plans once you've got them approved? Are we going to find people sort of land banking on plans, or do you have to do it whilst it's still, whilst you still got the go ahead?
Yeah, good question. So there's no real difference at the moment in terms of the approval. So right now you can build a new house, let's say with a DA, and you've got 5 years to start building. So I presume the same policy would apply for these types of developments. I don't believe that's proposed to change at all. But technically, yeah, if you get an approval, you can sit on it for 5 years before you have to start building. Otherwise, you'll lose the approval.
Okay.
So, Ellie, as an urban planner, people are watching and they're thinking to themselves, I wonder if this is applicable to my property, and they're sitting there thinking, I wonder if I should, at the property I'm going to buy, he's going to be eligible. I wonder if I should not sell and wait to see what happens to my property. What's the criteria that is coming in now, which is not involving train stations? I think you had another name for it called low rise, mid rise.
Yeah, that's right. So essentially, you fell within a 400-meter radius from like a town centre. So it could be like a suburban shops, possibly zoned E1. If you're within 400 meters from that, then, and your property is, let's say, zoned R2, low density, you could potentially build terraces, or possibly even or manor houses, or even possibly even apartments. And there's also different criteria if your property is 800 meters from these town centres too. So it varies depending where you are and the size of your property and things like that.
That's massive. That is, so 800 meters is almost just short of a kilometre. That's a huge radius. That's a 1.6 is a diameter around. That's a huge area. And so there could be a lot of people that are going to light up under these changes with density on their blocks.
100%. The devil is in the detail, really. Because at the moment, that they might be they've exhibited certain controls, but you don't really know exactly what's going to be adopted at the end of it. For example, as I was saying before, there's a TOD policy, which is transport orientated development policy, which now applies to just over 30 train stations around Sydney. That, for example, that was exhibited with a 3-to-1 FSR, so people got obviously really excited. And then when it was actually adopted, when it became legislated, the FSR was actually 2.5-to-1. So obviously, what that means to your listeners is you could build less than what they originally suggested you could build.
Right.
So in terms of this low-rise development policy, which is due to, I believe it's due to come out within the next month or so, it's hard to know exactly what controls actually going to apply.
I've got another question. This might be a bit of a silly one, but what's the difference between a manor house and an apartment complex? I keep on seeing this term in the articles. They all look the same though.
Yeah, manor houses. I don't think it's a really popular type of development around Sydney as a whole. There are some like pockets of them where you've got these new release areas where you've got new suburbs and things. Whereas in your existing Northern Beaches area or West Counts anywhere Sydney, you don't really see them. So essentially, it's a 2-story building with 4 units in it. That's what it is. But the idea is it's 2 stories, it's low scale. Whereas an apartment building is anything more than that. It's usually at least 3 stories having at least 4 units.
That's a killer question. That's a killer answer. Thank you. I really wanted to know that.
Yeah, that makes me so happy.
Yeah, that's good. What a tidy little development. Now, Ellie, Lisa, the one and only, Lisa Novak has got a question. Do we know the minimum block size yet?
They are available now on the New South Wales planning website. I can't tell exactly what it is, but if you basically Google low-rise medium density planning, something to that effect, you'll be able to find everything. There are quite useful documents online which you can look up, and depending on the type of development, what you want to do, depending on your zone, will give you the minimum lot size as well as the FSR controls.
And Lisa said, thank you. The Northern Beaches is desperate for this style of accommodation, a huge undersupply. Billy, over to you.
Should you be looking at the council website if these are council changes with Northern Beaches Council stamp on the front, or is it state? Where do we go to make sure it's relevant?
State government. Some councils might have it on their websites, but go to the state government. And people are asking me like some tricky questions too, which I can't answer. So what I'm telling them is just go straight to the source, go straight to the Department of Planning,
rely on that.
The state government, and ask them. I found them to be pretty useful. You might not be able to catch them on the phone, but certainly by email, because after all, they're the ones that are driving these planning changes. If you call councils, unfortunately, they're not fully across. I don't think they're fully across the details either. But it's best just to go straight to the source in that situation.
Yeah, got it. Now, we've got it, if people want the council document from Northern Beaches in relation to these new potential densities, Billy's going to plug in the mobile number. You can SMS the word planning, and this will pop up. Ellie, how can you help people out there? And obviously, you've come on today to help us, and thank you. But where is your sort of areas of specialty where you can help people, where you want people to give you a call, and how do we get some business your way?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. I didn't expect that question, but essentially, if they can find me on LinkedIn or they can just Google me, the company's called Navon Planning. But in terms of the services that we offer, certainly if there's a site that you own or site that you're looking to purchase, we can give you a kind of a desktop review in understanding what are the current controls that apply in terms of the TOD, the Transport Orientated Development Policy, as well as what are the future controls that might apply to your property and what it might look like. And we work closely with architects. So if there's a concept that needs to be designed that you can visually see, okay, I can fit 20 units on my land, or I can fit 5 units on my land. That's an exercise that we do all the time.
Are you excited about this? Does this make your blood? Do you sort of, because I see this and I think it does for me. Like, it's opportunity for people. I think this is great. How do you feel about it?
Yes, listen, I'm a believer of planning reforms because yeah, the planning regime at the moment certainly needs a real shake-up to make things smoother and easier and quicker for applicants. And applicants, I'm talking about not like large-scale developers. I'm talking about mums and dads who might want to build their a dream home or subdivide dual occupancy or do like a small development like a manor house, for example, something small just to keep them going. Um, I'm quite skeptical in this situation because there's kind of a two-stage process here. One is that the controls change. So let's say they've changed. They've changed again next to train stations. But number two is actually lodging your application to council and actually getting an approval. So that there's a lot of unknowns there. So like I wouldn't want to be the first development being lodged next to Killara train station or in a heritage conservation area or down in Northern Beaches or somewhere suburb in Sydney, or you're building a 6-story apartment among 2-story houses. I wouldn't want to be the first one because there's a lot of unknowns.
It's interesting.
But ultimately, it's certainly created a real interest with our clients and obviously your listeners. So if it stimulates interest in people redeveloping their properties, then I think that's a good start.
Do you reckon your DA times will get longer, to get things approved if there's so much uncertainty? What does a normal DA look like at the moment?
Normal DAs, it really depends what it is, where it is, but I'm telling clients between 3 to 6 months with kind of a compliant DA and probably 6 to 12 months for a DA that's pushing the envelope a bit. So you could be waiting 12 months. With this, I don't know how big the take-up is going to be and whether that's going to really change council's timeframes. I know the state government is investing a lot in recruiting more town planners in councils, giving councils extra cash for resources, which that's a positive thing. But like it's the time frames, it's really hard to know, but it's frustrating, like we had an approval 2 weeks ago through the Land Environment Court just for a dual occupancy in Dover Heights, and it took 23 months from when the client's lodged to when it was approved in court. And it had to go to court because council refused it on reasonable grounds, we thought, but then, it shouldn't take 23 months to get a dual occupancy approved.
It's yes or it's no.
Yeah, that's right. And the ironic thing is they could have done a CDC, a compliant development, and actually get a larger development approved within a matter of weeks, but they decided to go this route for certain reasons.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Ellie, thanks for coming on today. You're an absolute legend.
Pleasure. Thank you. Appreciate it. It was fun.
And we got people can what can they Google? Your company name is
Navon Planning.
NAVLAN.
NAVON. Navon Planning.
Navon Planning.
Look me up on LinkedIn.
You're all over your LinkedIn.
Thank
You do actually. If it's someone to follow, guys and girls. If you're interested in this topic, follow Ellie because he does have awesome. I love your posts. I find them really interesting and what you're getting approved and what's happening in the area, and very cool.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And Billy, thank you.
See you guys. I'm the excited agent this morning. Very, very exciting.
Billy with the killer questions.
The killer questions. No, brilliant. Great to have you on. Really hard to find that info, so it's very interesting.
It's good.
Pleasure.
Thanks so much,
Thank
Ellie.
you.
Thanks, Billy.
See you later, guys.
Bye.